Before we go any further, just want to thank all the people over on Patreon, because without their help, none of this upgraded content that you'd be seeing would be possible. Over on the Patreon, you get exclusive sneak peeks at upcoming videos. You also get access to the Patreon only Discord server. Coming up soon, I'm going to be working on talking about other anime that I can't talk about here on YouTube, like say ReZero, Konosuba, and etc. I'm also going to start posting the scripts for video essays, and every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul. We also are going to open up the Patreon only Discord server to YouTube members at the $2 price tier, which also means that members will be seeing their name here alongside the patron. But with that being said, let's get back into today's video. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explained here, bringing you guys another review for Boruto chapter 76. And now that chapter 76 is done in the books, we got another dialogue heavy chapter with sprinkles of foreshadowing that was not in the leaks I reported on a few days ago that could have huge ramifications for the story moving forward. We got another potential code foreshadowing. We got Momoshiki realizing the truth behind Ada's powers, and we got a new direction for Kawaki's character arc. There's quite a bit to go through for this chapter, so without wasting any more time, let's just jump right into the review itself. So the chapter opens up with Boruto in utter shock over what he just saw, realizing that he just saw glimpses of the near future, and as Boruto recalls Momoshiki's warning that those blue eyes will take everything away from him, Momoshiki confirms that Boruto's able to see the same scene from the future that he did. Meanwhile, Naruto and Shikamaru cross all their T's and dot their I's by confirming verbally with Amado that he just wanted to use his karma in order to bring his daughter back to life, and Shikamaru says that as a parent, he understands Amado's motivations, but he needs to make sure that what Amado is saying is actually true, which is why we once again see the colder and more calculating side of Shikamaru by having him use Ada to confirm that Amado's daughter wasn't someone who would have dangerous or even hostile intentions towards Konoha, which Ada confirms that what Amado said in the last chapter is true. Delta looks like his daughter. She sounds like his daughter. She has her memories, but she doesn't have her personality. Amado's daughter, according to Ada, is the exact opposite of Delta. It's after having his motives questioned once again that Amado confronts Shikamaru and Naruto by saying he isn't sure how they perceive him, but he's not some evil bad guy looking to take over the shinobi world. He's just a normal citizen, and he's not even a shinobi. However, both Naruto and Shikamaru, they are right to be distrusting of Amado, even with this reveal. Trust is something that is earned, and he hasn't exactly been forthcoming with his motives right from the jump. And when Naruto points out that if this was truly what Amado was after, while Naruto won't get involved because there's no risk to anyone in Konoha, he wonders why Amado kept everything to himself instead of sharing the information, which leads to a great set of panels where Kawaki looks down at his karma while Amado says that, to be frank, it's none of Naruto's business about his motives, that Naruto would have been absolutely useless and couldn't do anything to help his cause, and that he couldn't be upfront because Kawaki hates the karma seal and everything it represents. This leads to a shift beginning inside of Kawaki, and we see another parallel to part 1 Sasuke, which we'll touch on in a moment. Kawaki states he used to hate the karma, deeming it as being the source of all his problems, but he now realizes the true thing he should have been mad at the entire time, which is the Otsutsuki clan for making such a vile creation like the karma seal and Kawaki having it placed onto him against his will. He views Otsutsuki as the real reason that his childhood was spent with Jigen in the car inners, beating him within an inch of his life daily, all while calling it training, and he views the Otsutsuki as being the reason why Naruto's had to suffer so much since meeting Kawaki and has had his life threatened because of Kawaki. Where there's a parallel to Sasuke is that you can tell this is setting Kawaki up for making keen observations, one that in this case is very uncomfortable but it's also true, and there are shades of gray to the story that Kawaki clearly doesn't have, and while his observation is wise, it's very wise, it's also childish at the same time, just as the case was for Sasuke in part 1 of the story as well as Sasuke for a good bit of part 2 of the story. It's then we get potential foreshadowing that not everything is actually what it seems. Kawaki directly asks Amado if using karma to bring Amado's daughter back to life will result in turning her into a new Otsutsuki. It's then that we see Amado take his glasses off and cover up his face in a fit of seeming emotion where he says he doesn't have a clear-cut answer, but this is his final option, and we see what appears to be a broken-hearted father continue to grasp at what might be his last straw to save his daughter. While everyone is wrapped up in their feelings for Amado, we get a panel where even the cold-hearted Ada, someone who absolutely detests Amado, even Ada stops the conversation short, clearly doing so out of the reaction to what we see going on. Amado has reached a breaking point. We have a grown man who is now crying, and Ada uses being tired as an excuse to stop the conversation short and asks if they continue the conversation tomorrow, which Naruto and Shikamaru they agree to. However, there isn't exactly any resting going on in that house. Boruto loses sleep over thinking about his vision of the future and the prophecy that Momoshiki gave him. Ada is staying up all night while Daemon is fast asleep without a worry in the world, and Kawaki's wide awake as well, clearly troubled by the stuff he just heard and growing hatred inside of him that he has in his heart for the Otsutsuki, which is ironic given that Kawaki himself is genetically mostly Otsutsuki now. However, we also learn that Kawaki has also been thinking over everything to do with Ada and Daemon as well, because after Boruto asks Ada what makes Kawaki so attractive to her instead of say him, and after Daemon tells Boruto it's not because he's 12 years old like Ada said, but instead it's because Boruto's just ugly, Kawaki says it's enough with the games and he calls out Ada's alliance with Code, the huge elephant in the room. Kawaki says that it's odd that Ada and Code they were in an alliance, but Code needs to feed Kawaki to the Ten Tails to get a chakra fruit because Kawaki counts as being fodder for the Ten Tails, but Kawaki notes that Code refused to feed Kawaki to the Ten Tails when he was about to capture him, which led to Kawaki then putting all the pieces together. The alliance with Ada and Code was conditional on Ada getting Kawaki and Code getting Boruto, which pisses Kawaki off to no end, and even Boruto puts the pieces together and begins to get upset as well, but tries to keep a level head in this situation because things are starting to get a little heated between Kawaki calling out Ada, Daemon saying he's shocked that Kawaki's smart enough to figure everything out, and Daemon threatening to punch Kawaki so hard that he vomits up his breakfast. However, it's then that Ada slams her hands on the table and demands that Sumire and Sarada be summoned to her as well. And much to our surprise as readers, because this was not in the spoilers, we also have Shikadai being brought in as well, since Shikadai is also immune to Ada's powers at first as well, which isn't something that sits well with Delta and Mitsuki because both of them have been turned into Censor Ada as well, and so by extension they can't visit her. It's then we get further evidence that Ada's ability kicks in when there's direct eye contact made, because Shikadai is taken out immediately after getting direct eye contact, and we get a good panel where we have Sarada drawn in a comedic expression with those enlarged white eyes, and this time her face is actually facing the reader in the panel. That was a good job by Ikimoto, which goes a long way towards selling her reaction and actually getting the comedy landed. However, Sarada comes to the conclusion that the only thing that's changed this time is that Shikadai got a direct look at both of Ada's eyes, and she makes a mental note to not look at Ada directly in the eyes as Ada leads Sumire and Sarada into the bedroom. We then get Kawaki telling Boruto that if anything goes wrong with Ada, he and Boruto can just kill her, which leads to Daemon once again warning Kawaki he better watch his mouth before Daemon fixes it for him. And we also get the panel that apparently set off so many people over on Twitter saying they can't believe that a grown man, i.e. Mikio Ikimoto, drew some fan service showing Ada, Sumire, and Sarada's legs in bed, which blows my mind that there's even outrage here. What we're seeing right here is extremely tame in terms of fan service, but Naruto's manga is literally worse than anything you just saw here. Naruto saw whole butt cheeks and nipples in the bathhouse, Naruto's transforming into a woman, Jiraiya was getting a hard on, which I won't show here on YouTube because of demonetization, Konohamaru transforming into shadow clones into nude Sai and Sasuke so they can make out in front of Sakura. My Hero Academia has way worse fan service with characters who are younger than Ada. The same when it comes to Dragon Ball, where Bulma was the same age as Ada, and she's shown in the first few volumes of Dragon Ball's manga in a Playboy bunny outfit, topless, whole butt cheeks being shown. It's a shonen. Fan service happens. But what we're seeing here is extremely tame. I don't understand the outrage. Now, that being said though, moving back to the chapter itself, Ada is shown wondering if what she's feeling is what love feels like, and she begins to question Sarada. Sumire notices that Sarada is looking on edge, but she's also looking at Ada out the corner of her eyes and only turning her head to meet Ada when Ada's in the process of turning her head to look at Sarada, and before Ada can fully turn her head to look at her directly, Sarada is always turning her head and goes back to only looking at Ada out the corner of her eyes, which leads to Sumire rightfully stepping in to distract Ada by getting the conversation going, and she gets Ada to start talking about Kawaki because when it comes to Kawaki, Ada has a one-track mind. This allows Sumire to start speaking to Sarada telepathically. Sumire tells Sarada that since she and Sarada have been unaffected by Ada, they need to play along with making Ada think that they're under her control while also not letting her think that they aren't, because if it comes down to it, she and Sarada will be the only ones who can actually take her down, which might be a clear setup for the fight going on later on down the line, which will be interesting given the fact that Ada views fighting as being barbaric in nature, but we'll touch on the importance of this later on this week. Meanwhile, Ada asks Sarada if how Ada feels about Kawaki is how Sarada feels about Boruto, which makes Sarada blush, and Sumire again has to warn Sarada to pretend to be under Ada's spell, and Sarada catches herself and she plays off her hesitation as Sarada being captured by Ada's powers, which leads to Ada revealing to Sarada that she hates these powers of hers because it means she can't have a real boyfriend, and it means she can't have real friends because everyone who loves her only loves her due to her abilities and not Ada herself. Again, this is foreshadowing. This leads to Sumire speaking to Shikamaru, who interestingly enough is shocked by the fact that Nishi, the Jonin who was charged with watching Boruto and Kawaki on the night that Boruto and Kawaki left the village to fight Code, Nishi has seemingly gone missing along with this entire sensory team, and Shikamaru is worried about the fact that Team E is not reporting in, which is potential foreshadowing that Code has begun making his moves in the shadows and has struck first blood by taking out the sensory ninjas in order to cover up his tracks. Sumire brings Shikamaru up to speed, and Shikamaru comes to the conclusion that no one else must know the truth about Sarada and Sumire being immune, because if they accidentally say anything, they'll be deemed as security risk by Ada. And we have an interesting panel where Daemon is shown, which means one of two things: either foreshadowing that Daemon will learn something, or Daemon might very well be able to listen in to some degree, since Daemon's name, like all the car inner members, has a tech pun behind it. In programming, Daemon is a program that runs continuously in the background and remotely, which I've covered in my video, The True Meaning Behind the Car Inner Members' Names, which I recommend checking out. Now, Ada and Daemon have confirmed to have hidden powers that we don't have actual knowledge on. This could be more set up for that, which is something to keep in mind moving forward, especially given that Daemon was in the background when Shikamaru was saying all this stuff. As Sarada offers her friendship to Ada, once again making sure to only look at Ada out the corner of her eyes and not directly, Momoshiki's thoughts begin to cross over with Boruto yet again, with Momoshiki revealing that he's figured out what Ada's power of control and enchantment actually is, which leads to Boruto asking Momoshiki if he's figured out something, but Momoshiki makes a point to refuse to share any intel with Boruto, which makes Boruto get pissed off, and this draws Kawaki's attention as he's noticed Boruto speaking to somebody, and he puts everything together that Boruto can communicate with Momoshiki, which leads to Kawaki demanding that Momoshiki reveal himself, and the chapter ends off there. Obviously, this is another reason why I say every time when we get spoilers, if we don't have full spoilers in detail and the chapter is dialogue heavy, it's best to wait until we get more context before jumping to conclusions. From this whole chapter, we can gather a few things. Kawaki is going to begin asking questions that only Momoshiki can answer, and he's gonna feel some kind of way that Boruto hid the fact that he's sharing his thoughts with Momoshiki, which might lead to more tension being built up between the two of them. The chapter confirms that there's more to discuss with Amado, since the conversation is supposed to pick back up later on today, and Amado possessing a shutdown code on Kawaki is yet to be revealed yet. We also have the sensory team going missing, which is foreshadowing that either Nishi and his team are on that Hinata and Tamari's OnlyFans account, or you have Code, who's finally beginning to make his move, and he's taking out the sensory ninja on the borders of the village to begin Code making his counter assault. We have set up for the chess match between Ada, Sumire, and Sarada, and it's gonna be interesting to see how long they can keep this deception going, and if Sarada is able to make a legit friendship with Ada, or if inevitably this is going to be a battle in the future. We have potential further confirmation that direct eye contact is required for Ada's power, similar to Daemon requiring direct contact to cut on his reflection, which is why both Sarada and Sumire have been making it a point to look at Ada out the side of their eyes and pretend to be under her control. We also have the door open up that Kawaki's karma might have an unintended effect of reviving Amado's daughter, because Amado couldn't confirm if this did revive his daughter daughter, if his daughter would transform into an Otsutsuki, or if this karma would make a brand new Otsutsuki altogether. There are breadcrumbs here. Some of them are large, some of them are red herrings. My chapter questions to you guys are going to be, now that we know that Kawaki is going to be openly confronting Momoshiki, what do you expect Kawaki to ask Momoshiki? And the second question I have is, do you guys agree that Nishi and the sensory team going missing is connected to code? While you think that over, click here to watch that video on the car inner members I mentioned earlier, or click here for this Kryptonian Saiyan video.